Bwenzi panochita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi maplayer. Bwenzi pano munda ndisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya. Mumamvesesa machimo woti besti bwenzi iti kukamba zina ndipo sisi atakundinyanyala kuti isi mfunsena kuti zizi zimateka bwanji kuti munthuwo chimwangati ine kumachedwa soka chisi.
Hello guys, this is Jomas, JOPO Music. We just had to listen to what that sounds like. Here with me is another session on how I mix rap vocals. Without further ado, let's jump into the vocal bus and listen to how it sounds like without the effects in it. So I'll firstly mute out the effects so that you listen to the session with the instrumental and the vocals raw.
Bwenzi panochita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi maplayer. Bwenzi pano munda ndisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya. Mumamvesesa machimo woti besti bwenzi iti kukamba zina ndipo sisi atakundinyanyala kuti isi mfunsena kuti zizi zima.
So that's it, without any single effect. I personally focus so much on gain staging before I start mixing out a session. I try to balance out the instrumental and the raw vocals before I start adding in plugins. I just don't want to add in unnecessary gain with the plugins that I'm adding in. So that's where gain staging comes into raw playing. So let's go with the tip number 1 on what I do. I usually introduce a noise gate. So we'll mute out the instrumental so that you listen to the vocal raw. So without the gain, you can hear underneath that there is unnecessary noise.
Bwenzi panochita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi maplayer. Bwenzi pano munda ndisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya.
So with the gate introduced.
Bwenzi panochita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi maplayer. Bwenzi pano munda ndisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya.
So the gate is just stemming out some noise flow that was introduced when recording the session. Secondly, I introduce a vocal rider. It's more of an automation effect, whereby instead of me automating the vocal in terms of its dynamics, I use the vocal rider to do that for me. As you can see, this vocal phrase might be high. I just don't want to overwork the compressors that are coming below. So I use the vocal rider to help me with that. So with the vocal rider introduced, this is what...
panochita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi maplayer.
As you can hear, where he says pen and player, the phrase was dominant. So the vocal rider tries to tame it down. So not much is being added because actually I gave it a range of 4 dB up and negative 4 dB down. So it's just focusing towards that range in terms of its automation. So going down to tip number 3, I introduce a Pro EQ 4 just to roll out some rows and tame down some unnecessary frequencies. So the frequencies that I was taming out in particular, these were the frequencies on his vocal register. As you can hear, nothing is being audible. Yeah, I think I would cut to somewhere around there, 98. That's the vocal range that I would tame out. And on the harsh frequencies, I would just play the vocal and solo the band so that you hear the frequencies that I was trying to carve out in particular. As you can see, they are not that deep of cuts because actually it's just negative 3 dB, negative 4, and then negative 3 as well. So not much of cuts because actually I would love to keep the vocal in its perspective. And it's more of matching up the EQ spectrum of the vocal.
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
As you can see, the other parts of the vocal seem to be even out. So fourth in the chain, I introduce a V-comp. It's a waves compressor. So this is what I use for the dynamics controlling of the vocal. So it's not doing much. It's more of reducing the gain with a 6 gain reduction. Then the output compensates the input, then gain that is being introduced by the compressor. So let's hear what it sounds like with it.
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
As you can see, it's reducing to somewhere around -6 in its gain reduction.
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
I gave it a ratio of 4:1. So without the compressor, this is what it sounds like.
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
I think as it approaches towards this range, you'd hear that the compressor attacks it wide deep.
bwenzi
So with it,
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer. bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
so I've just noticed that not much is being done when these phrases come through. I think the automation, the vocal rider, is playing a role. It's helping out so that the compressor doesn't overwork. What's this? The 6th. I think it must be the 5th. I introduce a compressor. So this is a Pro Q compressor. Pro compressor. Pro C. Oh, goodness. I think I'm in love with a Pro Q. All right, so this is a Pro C compressor, adding in another compressor to complement the first one.
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer. bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipay.
A threshold of 26, ratio of 3:1, fast attack, and fast release as well. The makeup gain, I left it on auto so that the compressor calculates its makeup gain towards the gain reduction.
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
So without
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
and with,
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
all right, so let's incorporate the instrumental so that we will listen to what it sounds like far down this line.
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer. bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipay.
So without
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer.
and with,
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer. bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipay.
so as we proceed, it was now high time I introduced a CB Lens plugin. This is a CB Lens from Webs, trying to tame down the S's and the T's in the vocal. As you can hear, our language is made up of much of those, the S's and the T's. So with it incorporated, it sounds like this.
bwenzi pano chitathapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer. bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipay.
So as you can hear from this part,
pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipay.
so those were the phrases. Let's try to listen to them. So those are the frequencies the Sapiens plugin is trying to tame down. And that's its purpose towards this vocal chain. I just wanted it to tame down the S's and the T's in the vocal. So the next tip is my favorite, the multiband compressor, C6. I wanted some clarity in the vocal so that it introduces the high end. So with it, All right, so I didn't. All right, so let's head to the Madband compressor.
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya
So without the C6,
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer
and with it,
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer
so it's more of a preference, you know. Sometimes I want much of it, sometimes I want just a tiny percentage of it so that it incorporates the vocal and sounds more clear. Because actually I reduced the gain by -3 so that it just doesn't introduce unnecessary gain. So with it and without,
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer
and with,
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer
as you can hear, Clarito was just introduced. And down the line, I introduced an R-Vox, just trying to bring up the gain of the vocal so that it balances up with the beat.
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord
Without,
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya
and with it,
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya
So last in my vocal chain, it's another EQ, taming down the low frequencies, the MIDI low frequencies. So these were the frequencies that I was curving out.
mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya
And these were the other frequencies that I curved out as well. Just down the same range because I was actually trying to keep the EQ's spectrum even.
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya mumamvesesa machimo woti besti bwenzi iti kukamba zina ndipo sisi atakundinyanyala kuti isi mfunsenawo kuti zizi zimateka bwanji kuti munthuwo chimwe ngati ine kumachedwa soka chisi
So those were the inserted effects that I introduced in the vocal bass. Now, going to the sends, I firstly introduced a delay with a 8th note. The PC acting up. It just acted up. All right, so there we have it. I introduced a quarter note. It was a quarter note with a feedback of somewhere around 20 to 15. I curved out the lows. No, I left the highs the way they were because actually I wanted them intact.
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer
All right, so
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent
so as you can hear, maybe it sounds as if much was being done, but then as you can see in the effects chain, I introduced a compressor underneath because actually I was side chaining the delay to the vocal bus so that the delay pops up when the vocal is not singing, but when the vocal is being active, the delay has to be tamed down. So this is the side chain, so you can hear.
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya
You've listened to it. When the vocal was active, the delay sounded way low, but when the vocal stopped, the delay popped up. So this is the side chain to the vocal bus. And effect number 2 is the doubler.
bwenzi pano chitatapo kale mukanakhala bay podipena ndi maplayer bwenzi pano mutandisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya
I just introduced the waves doubler as a send effect. Then the high end, this is what I usually do. I don't usually add high end towards the vocal bars, but then I would rather have it as a send, because actually I use this saturation plugin. It's more of an exciter from Waves. Then I introduce an EQ. This is a stock plugin, Pro EQ from PreSonus. So I tame down the lows, boost up the highs, and incorporate that with the exciter from Waves, with a de-esser, trying to tame down the harsh sibilance, and introduce it as a send. So it comes up to this.
Bwenzi pano chita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi ma player. Bwenzi pano munda ndisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya. Mumamvesa. Bwenzi pano chita tapo kale mukanakhala bay.
So without the high end.
Bwenzi pano chita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi ma.
So with it.
Bwenzi pano chita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi ma player. Bwenzi pano munda ndisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya. Mumamvesesa majimo woti.
So yes guys, that was much of what I do when I process the rap vocals. Until next time, I think this is it for today. Thank you, and stay tuned to more content coming through, more videos. And with whatever question you have, drop down in the comment section below so that I get to learn from you guys as well. So thank you.
Bwenzi pano chita tapo kale mukanakhala bay poti pena ndi ma player. Bwenzi pano munda ndisamutsa mukanakhala landlord rent sindipeya. Mumamvesesa majimo woti bestie. Bwenzi iti kukamba zina ndipo sisi atakundinyanyala kuti isi mfunsena kuti zizi zimateka bwanji kuti munthu chimwangati ine kumachedwa soka chisi. Cause I remember that me and my bro were cursed by a woman. She said I'm seeing some demons in disguise, but all the curses were blessings in disguise. Mbuye amatikondela be despite kuti timamuchimwira ndipo amapeleka lafu chimwemwe ndikeya.